in the targeted attack on state legislators. We are awaiting a news conference this hour. My colleague Brooke Taylor is tracking this for us. Hello, Brooke.
Hi, Mike. Well, all of this is happening right now as those No King protests are expected across the country. So officials there are telling people do not attend these protests. There is a shelter in place and a massive manhunt underway for this killer. Overnight, Democratic State Representative Melissa Hortman and her husband, they were killed at their home in Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. Just a few miles away from there in Chaplin, Democratic Senator John Hoffman and his wife were also shot. They are expected to be okay. Now, Governor Tim Walz, he is calling this a politically motivated assassination. When officers got to Hortman's home around 3 a.m., they came face to face with the shooter who managed to escape after. Listen to this.
They noticed that there was a police vehicle in the driveway with the emergency lights on, and what appeared to be a police officer at the door coming out of the house. When our officers confronted him, the individual immediately fired upon the officers, who exchanged gunfire, and the suspect retreated back into the home.
And President Trump has responded to this. He wrote, quote, "I have been briefed on the terrible shooting that took place in Minnesota, which appears to be a targeted attack against state lawmakers. Our Attorney General Pam Bondi and the FBI are investigating the situation. They will be prosecuting anyone involved to the fullest extent of the law. Such horrific violence will simply not be tolerated in the United States of America. God bless the great people of Minnesota, a truly great place." Again, another press conference expected to kick off. You saw a live view there in just a few moments.
Join me here at Courageous Media. Wow, I go camping for a few days and the world erupts into chaos. This is absolutely nuts. So we've got to talk about three major news stories that are going on in the world today. Obviously, the big news for today is the shooting of these, basically it's four people now, but it's two Democrat lawmakers in Minnesota, a state senator, and I believe the woman was the speaker of the state house in Minnesota. But this is absolutely bonkers territory here. Now, of course, as soon as the media heard that it was two Democrat lawmakers that were killed, they immediately jumped to the narrative. Oh, it must be right-wing extremism. Oh, those right-wing violent actors. Oh, it's all right-wing. Well, nope, that's not it. Not it at all. We're going to dive into this story because we now have, it's not breaking, it's been out for a couple hours now, but we got some information on the suspected, the alleged shooter, the man who has been tied to these assassinations. That one, Vance Belton, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. But we're going to dive into that. We're also going to dive into comments made by the legislator herself, as well as, hey, comments made by Tim Walz. This is crazy stuff. But welcome in, everybody. Thanks so much for being here. So let's dive into the meat of the story. Of course, the media ran with the narrative that it was MAGA extremists, right-wing extremists, blah, 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 blah. When in reality, almost all, I will not say 100% because there are a couple nutcases, but 99% of all the political violence in America is perpetrated by left-wing actors. It was the Democrat Party that was the party of slavery. It was the Democrat Party that was the party of Jim Crow. It was the Democrat Party that was the party of the KKK. It has been the Democrat Party all along, and it is still the Democrat Party that is advocating for and seeing the fruits of political violence. All right, let's dive in because Tim Walz gave a press conference himself, and I want to show just a couple of things. We have a brief snippet from this press conference, but it was a great montage that was put together of Tim Walz in his own words. Check this out.
This was an act of targeted political violence. Peaceful discourse is the foundation of our democracy. We don't settle our differences with violence or at gunpoint. We must all, Minnesota and across the country, stand against all forms of political violence. And each and every one of us are committed to making sure that a tragedy like this never repeats itself in Minnesota or across this country.
Now, That was his press conference from today talking about the shootings in Minnesota of the Democrat lawmakers.
Donald Trump's modern-day Gestapo is scooping folks up off the streets.
Because I called Donald Trump a wannabe dictator? It's because he is. It's because he is. Maybe it's time for us to be a little meaner. Maybe it's time for us to be a little more fierce. When it's adult like Donald Trump, you bully the shit out of him back.
Oh, is that what you do, Mr. Tim Walz? Is that what you do, failed Minnesota governor? Is that what you do, embarrassed VP candidate? You bully the sugar honey iced tea out of him right back? Oh, he's a dictator. He's a fascist. He's a Nazi. What do we do as Americans to dictators, fascists, and Nazis? Exactly what the Democrats want to happen. It's why there have been 2 that we know of, minimum, plus the whole bunch that got stopped before they ever got made public, assassination attempts on President Trump. It's why a complete leftist nutcase was able to get onto a roof in Butler, Pennsylvania, and crack off 3 shots with an assault rifle. It's why this is not only begun, it's instigated, but it's allowed to happen, is because of this type of ridiculous rhetoric. You call for nonviolence at the same time you call for violence. The only thing Democrats want more, really the only thing the Democrats want when it comes to nonviolence is nonviolence against Democrats. See, it's only wrong if it's violence against Democrats. If it's violence against President Trump, yeah, he deserved it. He deserved it because of the MAGA rhetoric. It's never their rhetoric that starts the problem, when it is always their rhetoric that starts the problem. And it is pretty much always backed up by leftists. Now, one might ask the question, why would somebody, because, bottom line up front, the alleged shooter in this case is a leftist. We're going to get into his details. But why would one leftist want to shoot another leftist? Let's check out why that might be the case. Because here is the state legislature, the Democrat, in her own words, just 3 days ago on Friday, as she was coming out of a legislative session. And this is Harmon. I believe her last name is Harmon.
I know that people will be hurt by that vote. And we worked very hard to try to get a budget deal that wouldn't include that provision.
DFL Speaker Emerita Melissa Hortman emotional following the House's adjournment from a special session Monday. Hortman was the lone DFL lawmaker to cast a vote to cut Minnesota Care access for undocumented immigrants. It's a move she made with a heavy heart.
I did what leaders do. I stepped up and I got the job done for the people of Minnesota.
The bill was deeply unpopular with members of the DFL caucus. Members have repeatedly expressed frustration that the bill was part of a compromise, one that would ensure the necessary GOP votes to pass the rest of the state budget.
We are tremendously disappointed and gut-wrenched at this decision, at this compromise that compromises our communities that are most vulnerable.
So this is the big problem. This was the initial problem, probably the initial reason why she was targeted amongst other politicians. We now know that there were 70 names on this alleged shooter's manifesto list, but she was one of the first. Why? Because she was the deciding vote in taking away government-paid, taxpayer-funded health care for illegal criminals. Yes, that's right. She, as a Democrat, actually acted like a lawmaker. She actually sat down with Republicans and said, we got to get a budget passed. What's it going to take? And the GOP basically said, there is no way in heck any of us are voting for a budget that's got taxpayer-funded health care for illegals. And so she said, all right. And she was the deciding vote. And now you know why she has ended up on the wrong side of the militant, anti-American citizen left.
Hortman knows she let down her own caucus members with the vote.
They're right to be mad at me. I think some of them are pretty angry. I think that their job was to make folks who voted for that bill feel like crap, and I think that they succeeded.
Over in the Senate, a similar situation unfolded. Senate Majority Leader Erin Murphy forced to vote for a bill she too disagreed with to uphold the integrity of their compromise.
This one hurt. This one is a wound because of its reason. my colleagues across the aisle set this as their number one priority.
Asked
Of course. Why are we paying for things for people who do not belong in our country? They are not invited here. They are here criminally. They are here illegally. They get nothing. No paid benefits for any of them. This isn't even controversial. This is just ridiculous common sense. And you had a couple Democrat lawmakers basically cast votes saying, okay, fine, no health care for illegals. And this is what they get. This is how wacko left the Democrats have become. This is why the Democrats are eating themselves right in front of our eyes. They are essentially in the embrace of a civil war inside their party between the ultra woke and the not woke enough. That's really what it boils down to in the Democrat Party. You are either a wacko, socialist, woke, Marxist, anti-American thug, or you're not there yet, because the whole party's going that direction. So now, again, the media immediately rolled out and said this was right-wing extremism, right-wing violence, but breaking news, the Minnesota State Police, the Minnesota investigators, everybody on this have since released their suspect, the name of their suspect. The Minnesota lawmaker shootings suspect Vance Belter is sought in connection. And what do we know about Vance Belter? Wow, very interesting facts about Vance Belter indeed. First, from Laura Loomer, probably one of the best investigative journalists in the country. The alleged shooter in Minnesota, he had what they found in his vehicle. And now this is a gentleman who initially this was called targeted violence. Why do we know it was targeted violence? Because the man dressed up as a police officer. He had gone to the extent of having an SUV outfitted like a police SUV, complete with lights, the whole 9 yards. He had a uniform. When the state police were asked, they said, based on what we saw, because they got glimpses of him, he would have been, if he was standing in this room, everybody would have thought he was a law enforcement officer. So he went to great lengths in order to perpetrate these shootings, basically being undercover and targeting individuals. In his car, he had a whole bunch of No Kings flyers that is the protest. It was nationwide, but in Minnesota specifically, it was sponsored by and endorsed by Governor Walz. Come to find out, Vance Belter was appointed by Governor Walz to a position. He was also appointed by the previous Democrat governor. So this man is a through and through Democrat. He had No Kings flyers in his car. He worked in the West Bank, in southern Lebanon, and the Gaza Strip. So according to Laura Loomer, obviously this is a very dangerous link between communist protesters and the Palestinian movement. More than that, come to find out that this man, not only being a Democrat voter, a Democrat appointee, but this man also, now again, he allegedly killed 2 Minnesota state lawmakers. He was appointed by Governor Tim Walz to be in his cabinet. But he was also a CEO with Minnesota Africans United. This is a coalition and statewide organization that seeks to get African immigrants out of Africa and into Minnesota. Come to find out, he has received tens of thousands of dollars of SBA loans. Looking into this financing, I would not be surprised if we see that NGOs connected to this man also received USAID or other surreptitious, clandestine taxpayer money laundered through many government agencies. So what we've got is we've got a Democrat leftist that has now killed 2 Democrat politicians and their spouses. It is not a right-wing extremist. It is a leftist, ultra-woke Democrat who targeted the first because she was the deciding vote in taking away health care from his beloved criminal illegal aliens that he's helping smuggle into the country from Africa, specifically the condo, from what I understand. Now, he had 70 more politician names on his list, on his manifesto. Of course, the Minnesota State Police are refusing to release the manifesto. We know that we know now that absolutely cements the story that he is a ultra left woke Democrat, violent extremist. Because if he was anything right, middle, anything left of center, even, they would release the manifesto because it would support their narrative. But who he is does not support their narrative. Therefore, you will not see any manifesto. 100%. So, this is obviously major news. We're going to be following this story to see what other details they can uncover about Vance Belton, if he has received other money, just how deep into this. The other question is Tim Walz. Tim Walz appointed this man. Tim Walz was the one funding and endorsing the No Kings protest, which he was a part of. These protests are nothing more than astroturfed, violent riots in the making. We're going to get into that whole thing. This is the big news for today. Just do not be duped by the mainstream propaganda media. They are telling you always a story, never the story. In this case, they immediately ran with the right-wing extremist narrative, only to get egg on their face and embarrassed once again.